to weigh in on the ongoing Labour Party crisis as well as the legal battle over INEC's refusal to recognize Omofoma as the party's candidate for the upcoming Edo State Central Senatorial by-election, I am joined by Christian Omofoma himself, the Labour Party candidate, Edo Central Senatorial by-election, and Prince Wayne Elijah. He's a legal practitioner. Thank you both for joining us on the news tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me start with you, Omofoma. It's barely 2 weeks to the election and you are not on the ballot. No thanks to the crisis in your party. The electoral body says you don't have a candidate. How did you feel about that?
It was very sad because I recall the Labour Party had gone to court. They gotten a judgment, a Supreme Court judgment, which is now before a Federal High Court judge, to interpret. I have actually gone to court against INEC for making such a decision, because they were duly notified and our primaries were duly conducted in line with all their guidelines. So we are confident that INEC will do the right thing at the end of the day. But as at now, we've also sued so that the courts can look at this whole issue and determine it once and for all.
Today is August 4. The by-election is 16, as I recall. So, I mean, that's about 12 days.
Yeah, it's a pre-election matter, and it must be determined before the elections. So we're looking at maybe at the latest by the 12th. It should have been determined, and INEC will now issue its codes for us to the Labour Party to send to Nadi Usman to upload her candidates for all the by-elections we have and upload our agents. So we're very hopeful and we're optimistic that that will be done in time for the elections. As it is now, I'm campaigning vigorously in Edo Central, just like where I campaigned.
By face?
Just like where I campaigned before in 2023. The people voted for me, and I'm sure they're going to vote for me again.
Okay.
So
let's bring in the lawyer into this. INEC says it is acting in line with the Supreme Court judgment. Does it have the constitutional and legal rights to do this?
Of course, every person in Nigeria and every institution in Nigeria ought to abide by every judgment of a court, a valid judgment, a subsisting and valid judgment of the courts. So as it is currently, we have a Supreme Court judgment that has laid all the issues to rest. As long as I'm concerned, I've looked at the certified true copies of the Supreme Court judgment delivered on the 4th day of April 2025. And without mincing words, there's no ambiguity. The Supreme Court had analyzed all the issues starting from the Federal High Court to the Court of Appeal, then the appeal to the Supreme Court, and the cross appeal from the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court by, a fraction led by the Abure-led fraction, the cross appeal. And if you look at the concluding part, the Supreme Court directly, clearly, unambiguously stated that the judgment that recognized the Abure-led fraction is hereby set aside and struck out. The cross appeal is also struck out. Then now gave an obiter admonishing parties, political parties, to always try to harmonize within themselves so as to reduce the litigations that come before the court. So now there is no ambiguity there, because when we look at the fact that Abure went to court, the Federal High Court instituted an action, sought reliefs before my lord, let me not mention his name, at the Federal High Court, and he granted the reliefs. The Court of Appeal upheld the judgment in parts. But the Supreme Court said, no, this is purely internal affairs, and for that reason, the whole judgment and the whole relief that has been sought are hereby set aside. Now, when you look at the party in the Supreme Court, you will see there that the fraction led by Mrs. Usman was designated as acting caretaker committee chairman as the appellant. Now, when you, as a legal personality, look at party's designation, and nobody challenged the fact that she designated herself or was designated by parties as the acting caretaker committee chairman, and she got judgment. The judgment was that as today, we have the INEC, and the INEC was recognizing her. That is what our own case was all about, that the INEC was recognizing her. In 2023, you will not forget that a FCT High Court has already restrained Abure, which now led to the crisis, internal crisis of Apapa coming on board and saying, you know what, since you have been, restrained kind of, as parading yourself as the chairman, I as your vice automatically am acting. So there was a kind of disagreement between them, which NLC and TUC supported Abure against Apapa. And of course, in 2024, in Nnewi, they had another convention which allegedly brought him into power, although INEC denied that they don't have any reports because they did not monitor it. And then he now went to court on that basis for recognition, which he had fallen out with those that supported him in 2023. So there was a fallout. So this is purely internal affair, and I agree with both sides. I want to state this year categorically now that I am not a member of the Labour Party and I don't belong to any faction. I'm a legal practitioner that has read the Supreme Court judgments, and I'm here to read the literal meaning of the words of the Supreme Court.
Okay, hold on. Just to bring our viewers up to date, because before we started this chat, we did not bring a full picture, but let's bring it to them now. The Labour Party is outraged at the Independent National Electoral Commission for not recognizing its candidate for the various by-elections across the country. National Publicity Secretary of the party, Obiora Ifo, speaking to Rise News, says the party is shocked that the electoral umpire refused to upload the names of the candidates it's presented to its website as required by law. However, the Chief Press Secretary to INEC Chairman Rotimi Oyekomi also told the Rise News that the matter is before a court of law and therefore cannot be commented on.
INEC has not been related with the leadership of the Labour Party. If you go to the INEC website, it is Barrister Julius Abure that is on their website as the national chairman of Labour Party. And you are aware that this office is the recognized office of Labour Party. All the correspondences from INEC to Labour Party comes to this office. From what we saw in the social media, Labour Party was clearly omitted. And we are asking, we have written to them to find out why they have omitted our candidates.
Well, there you have it. Let me come back to you, Omofoma, who's the candidate, and you say you are already campaigning ahead of August 16. The internal leadership crisis of your party has definitely come back to bite, but could this have been avoided?
It could have been avoided if INEC had implemented the Supreme Court judgment early. I mean, like he mentioned, April 5th, that judgment came on. So all this could have been avoided and averted. You know, the whole thing was settled. There's no crisis in the Labour Party. All you need to do is to look at that judgment. It's clear. Nobody can fault the Supreme Court judgment. It's the highest court in the land. And like I say, there's a lot of things I could have said here, but because the case is already before a federal high court judge, I cannot really speak to that case. But let me respond to what Obiora is saying. Obiora, he is talking about a website. Okay, INEC website, he himself has been parading himself as the National Publicity Secretary of the party. Let's go check the INEC website if his name is there. His name is not there. Yeah, he's parading himself as the publicity secretary. The INEC website thing is just something, it is to show the leadership of a party, okay? Yes, Abure's tenure had expired, clearly expired. He even came to Asaba 2023 to ask for a 1-year extension of his tenure. And it was granted to him, even though he tried to sneak in 2 years. They caught him and reduced it and reaffirmed the 1 year. And during the course of the 1 year, he went to, and again, he was talking about the convention they held in Nnewi. There was no convention in Nnewi. What they did, when conventions are held from ground up, not from up down, you know, there's supposed to be ward congresses, local government congresses, state congresses before national convention. None of that was done. Rather, he gathered his friends and his bodies and went to INEC and said he was doing a convention. And so INEC had every reason to dispute that convention. It's not because INEC wasn't there or not. The convention was not properly done. There were no world congresses. There were no local government congresses. There were no state congresses. So how did you get the delegates to the convention? That's supposed to where you get delegates to the convention.
So we can ask you the same question. I mean, how did you emerge your primaries? Because INEC is saying we didn't monitor, and is as a result of this is one of the reasons why we cannot legitimize anybody.
Okay, like what he just told you now.
Yes. How did you emerge? Who monitored your primaries?
I emerged by Senator Usman Enadi conducting the primaries with which I emerged. She's the legitimate chairman of Labour Party.
Caretaker?
It is clear. He's the caretaker committee chairman. Her role is to conduct these world congresses, local government congresses, and state congresses, which will culminate in a national convention. And she will hand over the party to a duly elected chairman of the party. Her role is transitory. It's a 3 months to 6 months process.
Did INEC monitor that process?
INEC, the process that brought Enadi Usman on.
The process that you emerged from.
I'm coming. The process I emerged from, INEC, there are stipulated conditions that must be met for INEC to monitor a process. And we met all those conditions. Okay, all the notices were duly given. Even on the day of the convention, we got in touch with INEC and all.
And they were there?
They didn't show up. But like I said, I don't want to litigate that issue right now because it's already before a federal high court judge. And we'll see how that goes. I mean, that issue will be determined, the pre-election matter, and to be determined quickly.
Prince, you're the lawyer. Section 84, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act, I believe, explicitly mandates the electoral body to be present for such a process as a candidate emerging from primaries. So if INEC wasn't there, then, I mean, does the LP, does a candidate like Omofoma here have a case?
Yes, he has a case because in law, we don't just operate the common law system. We operate both the common law system and the equitable system. It's been merged. Now, the Section 84 states that, yes, the electoral body have to, be put on notice 21 days prior to. And being put on notice is subjective. There have been allegations from the LP that they already sent them correspondences. Of course, I'm not a member, I don't know, but this is what the information we have out there, that they have evidence that they had already sent correspondences which they acknowledge they received 21 days prior to this time. Now, the issue is whether or not if their physical presence would nullify the outcome of such a convention.
That's the question.
Now, if you look at it in the literal sense, in the literal interpretation, the presence that the law is talking about is the notice. If the notice has not been given to them within the time frame allowed by law, then whatever is done there is void ab initio. However, if they have been given notice, which means that their presence is already presumed, because you can give an invitation to a person to attend your wedding, and that person acknowledges that, yes, he will be there by taking presence. Whether or not his physical presence was there or not does not nullify the fact that he was present.
Okay. All right. I think that's a good place to leave it. Omofoma.
And I want to say something.
Very quickly, in 20 seconds, we have to go.
Yeah, I have to say something. It is incumbent on INEC to make sure Labour Party is featured in the by-elections all over Nigeria that is taking place August 16. Because the role of INEC is to make sure everybody partakes in the democracy. Okay, our democracy is still nascent. The world is watching. Everybody is seeing what is going on. Labour Party is no longer a small party. Everybody is watching. For INEC to deliberately exclude Labour Party from the elections will not be right.
Okay, all right, we have to go. Thank you, gentlemen. Christian Omofoma is the candidate of the Labour Party in the Edo Central Senatorial by-election coming up August 16. He says he's campaigning regardless of his name not being on the list by INEC. And Prince Wayne Elijah is a legal practitioner helping us to dissect the legal consequences and the matter on ground. Thank you both, gentlemen. Best of luck.